Okay. Thanks, everyone. How much money do you need to be happy? So think about it for a second. What's your number? 7. Yeah. You know, many of us aren't satisfied with how much we have now. That's why we're constantly struggling for a raise at work, buying lottery tickets or scratch cards, maybe making friends with long-lost old relatives. Maybe that's just me. Is it crazy to question how much money you need to be happy? The notion that money can't buy happiness has been around for a long time. Mr. McCartney was thinking about it back in 1964. Excuse me. But it turns out there is a measurable connection between income and happiness. And not surprisingly, people with a comfortable living standard are happier than people living in poverty. The catch is that additional income doesn't buy us any additional happiness on a typical day once we reach that comfortable standard. The magic number that defines this comfortable standard varies across people and varies across countries. But in the UK, from almost 500,000 people, researchers at UCL found that higher household incomes were associated with better moods on a daily basis. That's not rocket science, right? But the beneficial effects of additional money taper off entirely after the £55,000 mark. So if that's true, why then do so many people bother to work really hard long after we've reached an income level sufficient to make us happy? One reason could be that our ideas about the relationship between money and happiness are often misguided. So almost 3 years ago, I did quite a big piece of work with Cardiff University to conduct research across a national sample of British people who thought that their life satisfaction would double if they made £55,000 instead of £25,000. So more than twice as much money, twice as much happiness. But our data showed that people who earned £55,000 were only 9% happier and more satisfied than those earning £25,000. Now, don't get me wrong, 9% is still 9%. But it's a bit of a letdown when you're expecting a double return. Interestingly and usefully, it turns out that what we do with our money plays a far bigger role, far more important role than how much money we make. So imagine for a second 3 people win £1 million on the lottery. One person attempts to buy every single thing they've ever wanted. The second person puts it all in the bank and only uses the money sparingly, maybe special occasions. And then the third person gives it all to charity. At the end of the year, they're all going to report an additional £1 million of income. Many of us, maybe, might follow the first person's strategy. But the latter 2 winners are likely to get the far bigger happiness bang for their buck. We usually think of having more money as allowing us to buy more, and more of the stuff that we like. Bigger houses, fancier cars, nicer watches, better wine, a bigger TV. But these typical spending tendencies, buying more, buying for ourselves, are ineffective at turning money into happiness. A decade of research by Cardiff professor Rick Delbridge has demonstrated that if you insist on spending money on yourself, you're far better moving away from stuff and spending your money on experiences, trips, evenings out. My own research showed that in addition to buying more experiences, you're better served in many cases by simply buying less and buying for others. Okay, quick show of hands. Who here is familiar with the term indulgence? Who's heard of indulgence? Everyone, yeah, most people, everyone knows indulgence. Indulgence is often followed by its evil sidekick, overindulgence. Yeah. Now, while the concept of overindulgence is pretty familiar to everyone in the UK, the word underindulgence doesn't exist. If you go to dictionary.com and you type in underindulgence, it says, do you mean under influence or counterintelligence? I find this fascinating. This word doesn't exist. But research has shown that underindulgence indulging a little less than you usually do can hold the key to getting more happiness for your money. Okay, chocolate. Right. In a recent study conducted by Weight Watchers, or WW as they are now, chocolate lovers took up 2 different challenges. One group were asked to have a last piece of their favourite treat and then promised to abstain for a week. So no chocolate for a week. Another group pledged to eat as much chocolate as they comfortably could and were even given chocolate by Weight Watchers to help them out, to help them achieve their goal. Now, if you love chocolate, you might think the second group of students, in this case, who ate themselves into a coma, had it made, but they paid a price. When they returned for feedback the following week, the chocolate tasting that then happened, the first group enjoyed their chocolate much less than the second group. The only people who enjoyed the chocolate as much as the second week as they had the first were those who'd given it up in between. Underindulging, or temporarily giving up chocolate, in this case, even when we have the cash to buy all the chocolate we want, can renew our enjoyment of the things we love. So the value of underindulgence casts a different light on the current debate over restricting sugary drinks. Driven by the childhood obesity crisis, many schools in the UK now have banned full-fat drinks from their canteens, from their vending machines. If you leave aside the potential health benefits of these initiatives, banning sugary drinks for a large chunk of the day may actually improve its taste, which I think is quite interesting. Researchers in Arizona State University demonstrate that people who enjoy a can of fizzy drink far more when they can't have it right away. Using your money to promote underindulgence does require a shift in behavior, but another scientifically validated means of increasing your happiness, but another scientifically validated means of increasing the happiness you get from your money is even more radical, and that is not using it on yourself. So, imagine walking down the street to work and being approached by a stranger who hands you an envelope. You open the envelope and you find £20 and a slip of paper, which tells you to spend the cash on something for yourself by the end of the day. Pretty cool, yeah? Now imagine instead that the envelope contains £20, and on the piece of paper, it tells you to spend your money on somebody else. Being generous is nice, but would using the money to benefit someone else actually make you happier than buying a book or a DVD or a belt or whatever? Yeah, and the answer is yes, and it's not even close. My team tried this in Newport, and when the participants were followed up, and we spoke to them about the people who received the cash, those who were told to spend the money on on others, report greater happiness than those told to spend it on themselves. And we repeated this in Ottawa, in Canada, in Pune, in India, Newport and Bristol in the UK. And it's clear across the board, we find that people are happier when they spend money on others rather than on themselves. Now, in the classic story, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, when the Grinch discovers the true spirit of the holiday, his small heart grew 3 sizes that day. Now, Dr. Seuss may have been onto something, because it now appears that acts of generosity can bestow physical benefits on the donor. As a father of a 6 and a 7-year-old, I can say with 100% confidence, there is plenty to hate about Christmas. Last weekend, they were like, "Oh, Dad, can we write our letters to Santa now?" I'm like, boys, getting an Argos catalogue and circling a toy on every page. I quite like doing that. And hearing Christmas music in October and hearing the decorations. But the holiday season can also inspire heartwarming generosity, unmatched by other times of the year. Charitable giving does spike between October and December, which has become known as the giving season across a lot of the third sector. My work with Cardiff University has shown that spending money on others enhances one's own happiness, and that the benefits of pro-social spending do hold up internationally. But could the benefits of giving to others extend beyond happiness? Could they extend to health? To explore this, my colleagues recruited 73 adults aged between 65 and 85, who all had a diagnosed high blood pressure. We gave each person a total of £120 to spend over the course of 3 weeks, and we measured their blood pressure before and after. Pills. Every week, the participants got a pill bottle fitted with a special cap that recorded the date and time it was opened, and inside each pill bottle were two £20 notes. The bottles were labelled with instructions about how to spend the money. Some participants always got bottles telling them to spend their money on themselves, while the remaining participants were required to spend the money on others. Those who spent the cash on themselves purchased things like a wool sweater, a massage. One lady bought tickets for a panel discussion on the art of tantric sex. Who knew, right? One woman bought face cream, which she said was a miracle. Meanwhile, people in the pro-social spending group bought cakes for firemen, cookies for their neighbours, toys and clothing for their grandchildren. One former soldier donated money to a charity that had been founded by an ex-Falklands veteran. When participants reported back, 100% of them said they liked getting money in bottles. That was a joke. And by using the devices that measured their blood pressure, we could see a clear difference between the spending groups. People who spent money on themselves showed no significant change whatsoever, and this is in a 3-week period. Whereas people who were assigned to use the money in generous ways showed a reduction in blood pressure. And to our surprise, this change was similar in magnitude to what is typically observed when people start engaging in regular aerobic exercise. To see if we could find a similar effect across a broader sample, our team started working with MQ Mental Health and their lead researcher, a lady called Sophie Dix, based here in London, the UK's leading mental health research charity, which had tracked the health and lifestyles of adults nationwide. This data set allowed us to examine over 18,000 adults aged between 55 and 84 who'd been diagnosed with a high blood pressure. And over the course of a 2-year period, the participants were asked how much money they give each month to friends, to family, to charities, and to other organisations. At the end of the 2-year study, which was last year, these individuals visited a lot of universities across the UK, and their blood pressure was measured. And we discovered that the more money people had reported spending on, the lower the blood pressure was. We thought the effect might be accounted for by variables such as income, physical activity, marital status, but no matter how you look at the data, financial generosity seems to be linked to a lower blood pressure. The research then conducted by Sophie Dix and Professor Hilary Lappin-Scott seems to provide the first casual evidence that spending money on others can improve your physical health. So why would generosity reduce your blood pressure? Although the research wasn't designed to tackle this complex question, we can see some hints in the data that helping others may act as a buffer against the stresses and the anxieties of daily life. Recent findings by psychologist Naomi Eisenberger also show that simply writing a supportive note to a friend can protect people from the surge in blood pressure that typically occurs in the face of a stressful event. Though it might be tempting to diagnose generosity as a supplemental treatment for heart disease, more research is needed right now. At Groop, I see this art of generosity being implemented in organisations every day, from national governing bodies to public sector councils to small community-led sport bodies, who've all recognised that giving back to communities increases their own reputations, but more importantly, benefits their employees with increased job satisfaction and an increased output of work within the organisation. I know it's the end of the day now, but my team, if you do want to stick around, we'd love to talk to you about how we can help you with your organisations get closer to their communities. Just to finish off, there may also be a thing such as too much giving. Some individuals who devote an overwhelming amount of resources to help others can experience cost to their own health. And we suspect that people that buy a lot of Christmas presents on Christmas Eve, it probably isn't good for their health. Still, our research points to the conclusion that embracing the spirit of generosity may not only be heartwarming, it may also be good for the heart. Let's call it the Grinch Effect. Thank you. Cheers.